My name is Isabella Reed. I am 32 years old. And this is the story of how I lost more than my sight, and yet found the clearest vision of all. Before I continue my story, kindly take a moment to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you. Now back to my story. I first met Frederick Leo on an ordinary spring evening at a charity fundraiser in downtown Boston. The air had that crisp bite of late March, the kind that hinted at winter's stubborn refusal to leave. I had been dragged there by my best friend Tracy Stones, who insisted I needed to loosen up and meet someone. Truthfully, I wasn't looking for romance. That stage of my life, I was focused on building my career as a marketing consultant, climbing deadlines and juggling client meetings. But Frederick changed that. He was standing by the bar when I noticed him, tall, well-dressed, with the kind of confidence that drew people in without him even trying. His hair, dark brown and slightly unkempt, gave him a casual charm, while his smile carried a warmth that seemed to melt away the stiffness of the room. Tracy whispered, "That's Frederick Leo, he's trouble but the good kind." I laughed at her remark, though something about him made my heart tick just a little faster. When our eyes finally met, he crossed the room with the ease of a man who belonged everywhere. "Hi, I'm Frederick," he said, extending a hand. "And you are?" "Isabella," I replied, trying not to sound too breathless. From that moment, conversations flowed like we had known each other for years. He spoke about his dreams of starting a tech company, the setbacks he had faced, and his belief that failure was just a stepping stone. I admired his vision, his way of spinning hope even out of disappointments. It was refreshing. Weeks turned into months, and slowly my guarded heart opened to him. Frederick had this way of making me feel seen, cherished. He would send me little notes in the middle of the day, "Thinking of you," or "Don't forget to eat lunch." For a woman who had spent so much of her life being independent and self-sufficient, his attentiveness felt like a luxury I hadn't known I needed. Yet, beneath the charm, there was a heaviness he tried to hide. I first learned about his debt one late night when he had drunk just enough whiskey to loosen his guard. "I'm drowning, Bella," he whispered, staring into the amber liquid in his glass. $20,000. It's crushing me. I can't breathe most days. My heart clenched. 20,000. It wasn't a small sum. For me, it was nearly a year's worth of careful saving, the cushion I had built for emergencies, for the unknown. But when I looked into his tired eyes, something maternal, something deeply loyal stirred inside me. Love makes fools of us in the most noble ways. Over the next few weeks, he confessed more. The debt came from a combination of bad investments and medical bills for his younger brother, whom he had been supporting. Frederick painted a picture of sacrifice, of trying his best, of simply being overwhelmed. And I, soft-hearted and hopelessly in love, saw not a man failing but a man worth saving. Tracy tried to stop me. "Isabella," she said one afternoon over coffee, "don't even think about it. Helping him with small things is fine, but 20 grand? That's your future. You can't just hand it over to someone you've only known a year." But I brushed her warnings aside. "You don't understand, Tracy. He's different. He just needs a chance. And I can give that to him." So I did. I remember sitting across from Frederick when I told him I had cleared his debt. He was stunned. His jaw literally dropped, and for the first time since I met him, tears welled in his eyes. He reached across the table and grabbed my hands. "Bella, you saved me. You don't know what this means. I swear I'll never forget this. I'll stand by you always." That promise wrapped around me like a warm blanket. I believed him. I believed that what we had was stronger than money, stronger than hardship. For a while, life was sweet. Freed from his financial burden, Frederick seemed lighter, more alive. He planned weekend trips for us, small escapes to the coast, hiking trails, even late-night drives with no destination in mind. He spoke of our future with certainty, marriage, kids, a home we'd fill with laughter. I thought I had invested not just money but my entire heart into something lasting. I would lie awake at night sometimes, staring at his sleeping face beside me, and feel a mixture of pride and contentment. pride that I had stood by him, that I had proven love wasn't just words but action. Contentment that we had crossed a storm together, and now the skies looked clear. But hindsight is cruel. It shows you what you missed, the cracks you ignored. There were moments when his gratitude seemed rehearsed, when his promises carried the weight of obligation rather than genuine devotion. I should have noticed the way his eyes sometimes drifted away when I talked about my own dreams, my own plans. I should have seen that his relief at being debt-free wasn't entirely about us, it was about him. Still, I clung to the belief that love would hold us steady. That loyalty was a two-way street. That my sacrifice would be repaid not in dollars but in devotion. I was wrong. I didn't know then that my life was about to twist into darkness, that an accident would strip away not just my sight but the illusions I had built around Frederick. That the very man I saved would reveal a truth more devastating than any debt could ever be. But that's the cruelty of fate, you never see the blow coming until it lands. It was a late summer afternoon when everything changed. The sun had been golden, the kind that made the streets of Boston shimmer like they were washed in honey. I had left the office earlier than usual, planning to surprise Frederick with dinner at his place. I was crossing Boylston Street, distracted by a call from Tracy, when the screech of tires shattered the ordinary rhythm of the day. I don't remember the full impact. Just a blur of headlights, a sharp cry that might have been mine, and then the sound of the world folding in on itself. When I woke up, the sterile smell of antiseptics surrounded me, machines beeped steadily, and my body ached in places I didn't know could ache. But the real pain came when I opened my eyes and saw nothing. Only darkness. Panic clawed at my chest. I screamed for the nurse, for anyone who could explain why the world had disappeared. Dr. Jonathan Hayes came into the room, his calm voice trying to anchor me as he explained. Isabella, the accident caused severe trauma to your optic nerves. We don't know yet if this blindness will be permanent. There may be hope, but we'll need time, patience, and possibly surgery. Time. Patience. Surgery. Words that felt heavy and meaningless against the void that had swallowed me. Frederick was there when I woke up properly the second day. He held my hand, his voice breaking as he said, "Bella, I'm so sorry. You'll get through this. I'll be here every step of the way." In that moment, his promise was the rope I clung to in my endless night. The days that followed were brutal. Learning to move without sight was like being trapped inside my own skin. I knocked over glasses, stumbled into furniture, burned my fingers trying to make tea. I cried often, sometimes quietly into my pillow, sometimes so violently Tracy would rush over to hold me. She tried to lift my spirits, reading to me, describing sunsets I could no longer see. But I longed for Frederick's steady presence more than anything. First, he seemed committed. He'd help me to the bathroom, sit by my bed, and whisper that I was still beautiful. I believed him because I needed to. I believed him because the thought of being abandoned in this darkness was more terrifying than blindness itself. Yet cracks began to show. First sign was the excuses. "I can't stay tonight, Bella. I have an early meeting." Or, "Work's been crazy, I'll check on you tomorrow." First, I brushed it off, life had to go on. But tomorrow stretched into long, empty nights when only Tracy's voice kept me from collapsing completely. One evening, while Tracy was helping me fold laundry, I asked, "Do you think Frederick is pulling away from me?" There was a pause, the kind that carries more truth than words. Finally, she said softly, "I think he's struggling, Bella. But you deserve someone who doesn't see you as a burden." A burden. The words stung like fire against an open wound. Till I clung to hope. I told myself that love was stronger than fear, that Frederick just needed time to adjust. After all, I had given him 20,000 reasons to stay. Surely that kind of loyalty meant something. But then came the night that shattered even that fragile illusion. I had managed to cook dinner with Tracy's help, pasta, nothing fancy. I wanted to surprise Frederick, show him that blindness hadn't erased who I was. He arrived late, his footsteps hesitant. When he saw the table set, I expected gratitude, maybe pride. Instead, his sigh was heavy, almost annoyed. "Bella," he said, pulling out a chair, "you don't have to try so hard. This isn't working." My heart froze. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then let the words fall like stones. "I can't do this. I didn't sign up for all of this. I thought things would get easier after my debt was cleared, but now it's just too much. Too much." I wanted to scream, to remind him of the nights I had stayed awake planning how to rescue him, the sacrifices I had made. But my throat locked, and all that came out was a broken whisper. "So you're leaving me?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he kissed my forehead with a strange finality and said, "You'll be okay. You're strong. Stronger than you think." Then he walked out, his footsteps fading until there was only silence. I sat in the dark, not from blindness alone but from betrayal so sharp it sliced through me. The man I had saved had abandoned me at my lowest. Tracy found me hours later, still at the table, cold pasta untouched. She held me as I sobbed, and for the first time since the accident, I wished I hadn't survived it. 'Cause survival without love, without loyalty, felt like punishment. But somewhere beneath the pain, a seed of resolve took root. Frederick thought my blindness made me weak. He would learn just how wrong he was. I would fight not just for sight but for the truth of who he really was. And one day I would make him see me again, clearer than ever. The weeks after Frederick walked out were the hardest of my life. I kept expecting him to call, to come back, to say that he had been rash and that love was stronger than fear. But silence stretched between us, long and suffocating. The man who once texted me 10 times a day now left me to navigate a world of shadows on my own. First, I told myself he just needed space. Perhaps the weight of my blindness scared him, and he would return once he found his balance. But as the days turned into weeks, the excuses he had once fed me became obvious for what they were, soft departures leading to a final goodbye. Tracy tried to hold me together. She visited every other day, helping me cook, guiding me through the little tricks of living without sight. She would say, "Bella, you're stronger than this. You don't need him." But every word of encouragement bounced against a wall of grief. Because the truth is, I did need him, or at least I had convinced myself I did. Nights were the worst. I would lie in bed, reaching out instinctively to the empty space beside me, remembering the warmth of his body, the way he used to whisper my name in the dark. That absence screamed louder than any fight we had ever had. One night, unable to bear the silence, I asked Tracy to read me his last text aloud. It was simple. "I'll always care about you, Bella, but I can't do this anymore. Care about me. Not love me. Not stand with me. Just care from a distance safe enough to protect himself." The words sliced through my chest like glass. I replayed everything in my mind. The nights I sat up strategizing how to pay off his debt, the sacrifices I made, the dreams I postponed to save him. And yet, the moment I needed him, he turned away. That realization was more blinding than the accident itself. I remember asking Dr. Hayes during a checkup, "Do people change when someone they love becomes broken?" He paused before answering, his voice heavy. "People reveal themselves, Isabella. Hardship doesn't change character, it exposes it." Expose it did. Soon I began to hear whispers. A mutual acquaintance, unaware of how much I already hurt, mentioned casually that Frederick had been seen at a bar downtown with another woman. Another time, Tracy overheard someone saying he was talking about starting fresh. I wanted to scream, to confront him, to demand answers. But the truth was, I already knew. His heart had left long before his body walked out. He had loved the version of me that could save him, not the version of me that needed saving. The betrayal sat like lead in my stomach. I tried to hate him, to erase his memory, but love doesn't vanish on command. It lingers, stubborn, like perfume in the fibers of a dress. I found myself replaying the early days, his smile at that fundraiser, his laughter echoing during our coastal drives. I questioned if any of it had been real or if it had all been performance, staged to keep me hooked until I served my purpose. Tracy's patience was endless, but even she grew firm. One evening she sat me down and said, "Bella, you can't keep bleeding over someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. You gave him everything and he gave you nothing. That's not love, that's theft." Her words stung, but deep down I knew she was right. Still, I couldn't let go without closure. Blind as I was, I begged Tracy to take me to his apartment one afternoon. I needed to hear it from him. When we arrived, the sound of laughter spilled out before the door even opened. A woman's voice. Carefree. Comfortable. Tracy tried to stop me, but I knocked anyway. When the door creaked open, Frederick's voice froze. "Bella!" The shock in his tone was enough to confirm everything. He stammered excuses, said he had meant to call, that he was finding himself. But all I could hear was the giggle of the woman in the background. I stood there, blind but not oblivious, my voice trembling as I said, "You owed me honesty, Frederick." At the very least. Silence. Then the faint shuffle of him retreating, choosing not to fight for me, not to explain, not even to apologize properly. Tracy guided me back down the stairs, her hands steady on my arm, while my world cracked a little deeper. That was the day the betrayal hardened into truth. He hadn't loved me, not the real me. He had loved what I could give, how I could rescue him, how I could make his life easier. Once the roles reversed, once I became the one in need, his devotion dissolved. I cried less after that. Not because the pain lessened, but because the well inside me had run dry. Grief turned into something colder, something sharper. If love had been blind, betrayal had opened my eyes in ways I never expected. And slowly, quietly, a thought began to form. If he could walk away so easily, then perhaps it was time I learned to stand, alone in the dark, until light found me again. That light would come, though not in the way I expected. The day Dr. Hayes told me there might be hope was the first day I felt air in my lungs again. It had been almost 7 months since the accident, 7 months of darkness stitched with heartache, and yet he sat across from me, his voice calm, steady. "Isabella, new treatments are showing promise. It won't be easy, and it won't be guaranteed, but if you're willing to try, there's a chance we can restore your sight." A chance. The word curled inside me like a flame sparking against cold wood. I clutched Tracy's hand, tears burning my useless eyes. "I'll do it," I whispered. "Whatever it takes." The road to recovery was brutal. There were consultations, endless tests, and a surgery date set months ahead. In between, I endured therapies meant to keep my nerves stimulated, exercises that made me sweat and sob in equal measure. Tracy became my anchor, never once letting me falter. Some nights, when the pain made me wish I could give up, she would sit by my bed and say, "Bella, this is your fight. Don't let him take more from you than he already has." I thought of Frederick often during those months, but not with longing anymore. My thoughts shifted to cold curiosity. Did he ever wonder about me? Did he ever regret walking away? Or was he too busy building a new life, blind only to the weight of what he'd left behind? The surgery came at last. I remember the room being chilly, the air filled with antiseptic and quiet murmurs. Dr. Hayes squeezed my hand before the anesthesia pulled me under. When I awoke hours later, groggy and heavy-limbed, my eyes were bandaged. The world was still dark, but this darkness felt different, like a curtain waiting to rise. The days of waiting were excruciating. Every second stretched into eternity. When the bandages were finally removed, I blinked against a flood of light that stabbed and dazzled me. Shapes blurred into focus, color seared into my brain. And then clarity. I could see. Not perfectly, not yet, but the miracle was undeniable. I sobbed so hard the nurses worried something had gone wrong. But they were tears of rebirth, of gratitude, of wonder at having the world return to me. The first face I saw clearly was Tracy's. She was smiling through her own tears, whispering, "You did it, Bella! You really did it." But amid the joy, a quiet decision took root inside me. I wouldn't tell Frederick. Not yet. Something in me needed to know what he was made of, stripped of obligation or spectacle. If he thought I was still blind, how would he behave? Would he come back out of guilt, out of pity? Or would he continue to drift, confirming that his love had been a transaction all along? So I lived as though I were still in darkness. Only Tracy and Dr. Hayes knew the truth. I wore sunglasses most days, leaned on my cane when outside, and moved carefully as if my sight hadn't returned. It was exhausting to pretend to keep secret the joy of seeing again, but my heart demanded proof. I watched Frederick from afar, testing the waters of his absence. I still had friends in common with him. Word filtered back that he was doing well, chasing new business ventures and spending time with the same woman I had heard in his apartment. Each report hurt less than the one before, but each also reinforced the truth. He hadn't once reached out to check on me. Months passed, and I grew stronger both physically and emotionally. My sight sharpened, my confidence returned, and I even began taking small steps back into my work. Clients were surprised to hear from me again, and Tracy cheered every little victory. Yet beneath it all, a quiet storm brewed. I needed to face him. The opportunity came unexpectedly. I was walking through Quincy Market one Saturday afternoon, my sunglasses perched on my face, cane tapping at the ground for effect, when I heard his voice. That familiar timbre, casual yet commanding. My chest tightened instantly. He was there, just a few feet away, laughing with friends. My heart pounded, but I steadied myself. This was it, the test. Would he notice me? Would he care? "Frederick," I said, my voice clear. The laughter around him fell silent. He turned, surprise flashing across his face. "Bella," he stammered, his tone laced with awkwardness. I tilted my head slightly, still pretending blindness. "I didn't think I'd run into you here." There was a pause, then his sigh. "I've been meaning to call. Just life's been busy." Busy. That one word told me everything I needed to know. He hadn't wondered, hadn't cared, hadn't lost a single night's sleep over me. If anything, my presence now was just an inconvenience. I smiled faintly, though inside my heart hardened further. "Well, I'm still managing," I said softly, tapping my cane deliberately. "It's not easy, but I'm learning." His response was muted, obligatory. "That's good, Bella. You've always been strong. No offer to help, no warmth, no regret. Just a man keeping conversation polite until he could return to his world." That night, I lay awake replaying every detail. His discomfort, his indifference, his eagerness to move on. And I knew then, without doubt, that my secret had to be revealed. Not to win him back. Not to shame him in public. But to confront the truth face to face, to show him that I had risen from the darkness he left me in. That I had survived without him, and that his betrayal had been the turning point of my strength. The revelation would come soon. And when it did, Frederick Leo would see me, not as the blind, abandoned woman he had left behind, but as the woman who could see more clearly than ever before. The decision to confront Frederick came quietly, like a tide rising until it could no longer be ignored. I had carried the secret of my recovery long enough. My sight was fully restored now, sharper than before, almost as if the universe wanted me to see the truth more vividly. But more than that, I wanted him to know that the woman he had pitted, abandoned, and written off had not only risen, but could now look him squarely in the eyes. I asked Tracy to help me set it up. We arranged to meet him at a coffee shop downtown, one he used to love, a place he had often dragged me to during our happier days. She called him under the pretense of needing business advice, and to my surprise, he agreed to come. The day arrived. I dressed carefully, choosing a simple white blouse and navy trousers, clothes that spoke of quiet strength. I left the sunglasses at home. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman reborn. Not the Isabella who had handed over her savings for love, not the Isabella who had stumbled in darkness while he drifted away, but someone sharper, steadier, wiser. When Frederick walked into the cafe, he spotted Tracy first. His eyes darted around until they landed on me. I watched the flicker of surprise cross his face as if he hadn't expected to see me sitting there, head lifted, eyes clear and focused. "Bella," he said slowly, his tone uncertain. "Frederick," I answered, calm but firm. "Sit down." He obeyed, sliding into the chair across from me. For a moment, he just stared, confusion etched into his features. Finally, he asked, "You can see?" "Yes," I said simply. "I've been able to for a while now." His face flushed, a mix of shock and something uglier, guilt maybe or fear. "Why didn't you tell me?" I leaned forward, holding his gaze. "Because I needed to know. I needed to see who you really were when you thought I was still blind. And you showed me." He shifted uncomfortably, his hands fidgeting with the sleeve of his jacket. "Bella, it wasn't like that. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know how to handle it." I cut him off. "No, Frederick. You didn't want to handle it. You loved me when I was saving you, but the moment I needed saving, you disappeared. You left me in the dark, both literally and figuratively." His mouth opened, then closed, as if searching for a defense that wouldn't come. Around us, the cafe buzzed with ordinary life, cups clinking, conversations rising and falling, but between us was a silence heavy with truth. I continued, my voice steady. "Do you remember the night I told you I'd cleared your debt? The way you held my hands and promised you'd stand by me always? That was the night I believed you. That was the night I thought I had a partner, not just a man grateful for a bailout. But when I lost my sight, you proved those words were hollow." He swallowed hard, shame flickering across his face. "I made mistakes," he whispered. "Mistakes?" I shook my head slowly. "No, Frederick. You made choices. And those choices told me everything I needed to know." For the first time since the accident, I felt no ache in speaking his name. No yearning, no bitterness. Just clarity. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," I replied softly. "I didn't ask to meet you today to fix anything. I just wanted you to see me. Not the blind woman you left behind. Not the helpless figure you avoided. Me. Whole. Strong. Free." For a long moment he looked at me and I saw it, the realization dawning in his eyes, the weight of what he had thrown away. But it was too late. I stood, smoothing the fabric of my blouse. "Goodbye, Frederick." His voice chased after me, low and desperate. "Bella, wait." But I didn't. Tracy was already on her feet, her hand resting lightly on my arm as we walked out together. The sunlight outside hit my face, warm and dazzling, and I closed my eyes briefly, savoring the gift I had regained. Behind me, the door of the cafe swung shut, cutting off whatever else he might have said. In that moment, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had lost money, sight, and love, but I had gained something more valuable, truth. And truth, once seen, could never be unseen. Life moved forward after that. I rebuilt my career, reconnected with friends, and even began to travel again, savoring every color, every horizon with renewed appreciation. Tracy remained by my side, reminding me daily that the right people never leave when darkness falls. As for Frederick, I don't know where he went after that day. Maybe he found someone else to rescue him, maybe he's still running from himself. But that no longer mattered. Because I had learned what love should be. Not a transaction, not a debt owed, but a hand that holds tighter when storms come. Anything less is betrayal disguised as devotion. And betrayal, once unmasked, has no power left. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe to this channel for more stories.